Media in a Quirk Society by Schrijverr. Read by My Lost and Found. Summary. An essay, or more of a think piece, about how the media adapted to the appearance of quirks, how genres changed, and how the media influences and is influenced by society. This fic is about 1,500 words and is rated general audiences, and no archive warnings apply. This is less of a fic and more of an essay. This podfic is recorded for Voiceteam 2026 for the challenge Pop the Champagne. As always, link to the fic is in the description, and on with the story. Something that makes me so very curious is how media must have developed in the MHA universe after the appearance of quirks. We hear almost nothing of media other than the news within the universe itself. For now, it escapes me if All Might cartoons are actually mentioned in the show or something of fanfiction. But another fanfic phenomena are pre-quirk movies, aka movies of our time. The latter is a thing we must agree on, since there was a time before there were quirks, wherein movies were made. This also implies that the pre-quirk superhero genre has existed. Think MCU or DC. I want to examine how that must have changed with the appearance of quirks, based on what we've seen in the show. When we see the beginnings of a quirk society, we meet All for One, who rises in the chaos, and especially the scene where he takes and gives a quirk stands out the most. Quirks weren't expected yet, especially visible quirks, while at the same time, a quirk means power. We also know the hero profession rises here, because it was too much for just law enforcement. So we have these components, which all make for really great stories, in hindsight. After the fact, there must have been many stories about a lone police officer becoming a hero as he saw the force around him crumble, or a weak person suddenly developing a powerful quirk that helps them out of an impossible situation. Or maybe even about someone who feels they are deformed and shunned from society by their quirk and how they overcome it. But at the moment it was happening, there was still a lot of resentment about quirks and people who had them. When quirks first entered the stage, people who had them plunged the world into chaos, or had to hide, like the man who goes to All for One to get his quirk removed. I can imagine that if movie productions could continue in these turbulent times, they would focus on the normal guy, still fighting against a suddenly superpowered villain or a quirkist, as I shall refer to it, take on a person who gets a quirk and turns evil. Or they might even ignore the whole quirk situation in general, with a new genre that can be boiled down to No Quirks AU, wherein the movie is based in pre-quirk times. This genre would have a lot of nostalgia at first, probably, trying to call upon how simple life was when villains weren't terrorizing the streets, and heroes were just a funny thing on TV. Maybe it will develop later. Maybe it will become how difficult it must have been back then with no simple quirk solutions to problems. It might even turn into a genre about invention. Mostly, with the fascination in the public of how things that run on quirk solutions now could have been solved by a quirkless scientist in the before times. But back to the developing genre that is set in the B&HA real world, wherein quirkless people might have gotten a center stage in the early years, before quirks became so entrenched in society that quirkism developed against what used to be a majority. I can picture a young Midoriya watching old movies, wherein the quirkless protagonist was the hero against the evil quirks, telling himself that one day that could be him. However, with the rise of heroes, the media attention probably shifted. The manga/anime describes it as ordinary civilians with their own quirks decided to take matters into their own hands to bring order to society, and thus the first heroes appeared, as it says on the fandom wiki. This shifts the narrative of quirkless hero against the chaos of quirks to brave citizens stands up using the power they've been granted. Maybe they gave it religious undertones, or maybe it was the story of taking the moral high ground and doing what was right for your country and neighbors. In those early days, you probably have more stories reflective of the pre-Quirk fictional heroes, wherein the main character has to hide that they're out there every night, breaking the law to bring order. It can be that at this time, the narrative that the police is just the villain taxi service starts to originate among bitter storytellers who have seen the police fail where heroes did not. Though this would be more older filmmakers after this era is over who started it. When heroes have become accepted, but they still remember how bad the police reacted before. But on the topic of heroes becoming accepted, that must have been a civil right movement, a right that had to be debated with villains reflecting how bad an idea public quirk use could be. You can see in the Liberation War arc how something like that could have played out, and how it makes for interesting media entertainment, as it is a story arc in our world meant to amuse. Mixed with the fact that the first heroes created order in the chaos, there must have been tons of movies following activists or a hero not only having to fight the villains, but also the system. And then, over time, the heroes morphed into what they are now. Hero became a profession, and quirks the norm. After a while, just focusing on quirks got less interesting, and using quirks as just a backdrop became more interesting. Sure, you can still have the hero genre, and with actual figureheads, these can range from documentaries to inspired by real-life movies, or just fictive fights with characters that are ostensibly based off a real hero, or just the real hero. Especially when heroes became dependent on their popularity, there must have been plenty that signed an acting contract in the hopes of getting their name and image out there. With Midoriya's comment about Todoroki having the backstory of a protagonist, it is clear that the hero genre is far from forgotten. However, the normal genres also developed with society and with quirks, becoming normal and no one truly aching for the times before. They must be set in the B&HA world we know. The tropes as we know, and maybe love, will get a new twist to fit this society, or maybe disappear completely. New stereotypes and assumptions based off quirks appear. Even quirkism might become prevalent in media, teaching kids that those without quirks are freaks or weak and weird. In my mind, I picture a movie trailer going, "She has a water quirk, he has a fire quirk. Will they fall in love despite their different personalities?" Or, "When his family is murdered, he must track down the killer with only the quirk as clue. Will he find out what happened on that fateful day, or will the path this sends him on be the last of him?" The horror genre will also be transformed, with the fear of people misusing their quirk becoming a big thing in society. As for fantasy, this genre will change, with superpowered people becoming the norm. You have to get more creative to make it truly fantastical. World building, visually, will be more important to distinguish it from our world. Creatures, too, since there are literally people with bird heads, for example, walking around. Not to mention the potential of quirks being hereditary that can be used in dramas where the partner is cheated, or as plot point as a grand reveal of a main character being related to one of the antagonists, or even in gang movies, as them training together to use their quirks and all of them being the same. That would make for a cool visual, to be honest. Disaster movies also will be different than they are now, with protagonists who can have quirks that work against them in their situation, or if it's a more hopeful movie, how they work together, piling together their quirks and other skills to survive. And the crime genre will be so intrinsically tied to hero society, and with the police being seen as kinda useless, it will be so different than how we know it now. Did crime become part of the hero genre? Is this a piece of cop propaganda left wherein the police tries to save their reputation? I don't know, but I want to think about it. It's just interesting to me how, in a world where the super is normal, media has adapted, and this has been keeping my mind busy over the past few weeks. The transformation in society of quirks as something dangerous that needs to be stopped, to a few brave people standing up for what's right, to finally the commercialization of heroes so that they can keep doing their job. You can see the changes. That's unavoidable. Media is such a powerful tool, and it's hardly referenced within the source material, which I understand because there are already so many moving parts. But with the fall of hero society, it is interesting how all that propaganda for heroes might disappear back to when quirks first appeared, and how the cycle may start again. And that is all for this PODFIC. It's not something I've done before, which is relevant actually to the Voiceteam challenge, but I really thought the whole thing with analyzing media and quirk society was fascinating, and I was really excited to delve into this and share that podfic with you guys. And yeah, it is interesting. I love thinking about these kind of things. Heavy world building is one of my favorite things in fics, especially long fics where you can delve into the actual effects on the story, but even just short little spec fics where it's this could be a thing that we don't see in canon, and how would this actually affect the world in this small scenario we're looking at. And this was really interesting to read. And I've listened to one podfic, at least one, I think it might be a couple, but one that I really remember that's of a similar nature. It was more of a story outline, but it wasn't actually a fic. And even though it was just kind of talking about potential things that could be going on and things about the world, I found it really relaxing to listen to almost. So I figured that I could also podfic something like that. And like I said, this is for Voiceteam 2026 for the challenge Pop the Champagne, and that challenge entails contributing to someone's first time making a new format of fan work, and it can be yourself that's making the new one. And one of the options was oral not fic, which I'm pretty sure this falls under the category of. So I figured that was the perfect opportunity to podfic this. So yeah, I enjoyed thinking about this, and I hope you guys have enjoyed listening to the thoughts about this, and your own brain is whirring and thinking about things, because it's so fun to just speculate about things. Anyway, this is the first podfic I recorded for Voiceteam 2026, so that is exciting. But anyway, yeah, that is all for this time. As always, link to the fic is in the description. Go leave a kudos, go leave a comment, whatever you can. I am sure the original author appreciates it. Anyway, that is all for this time. I will see you guys next time.